and I'm here to tell you everything does not have to be content. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Knits by Mandy. I'm Amanda, and today we have just a chill little knit and chat in store. Just wanted to sit down, get some rows in on my current work in progress, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about social media because there's been a lot of like chitter chatter on Instagram, and I just kind of wanted to chime in with my thoughts, hear other people's thoughts. And I think it's good to check in because for a lot of us, social media is how we convene with the knitting community. So I know that's the case for me. So I think it's good to talk about, even if it isn't directly related to knitting. It's kind of the medium in which we can share our knitting with each other, which I think is really important. So on my needles today, I have the Ingrid top, and this is by Gregoria Fibers, and this is Knit in Line by Sanus Garn, and I think the colors, I'll put it on the screen, I don't remember. Yeah, and so I'm making pretty good progress. It's a lot stretchier than I thought it was going to be. It doesn't look very stretchy in pictures, but it's very stretchy. And I definitely probably could have knit a size smaller. I'm having that issue lately where I'm like forgetting what size my body is. I don't know if anyone else has that issue, but I think it's gonna end up looking nice, and I think worst case, you can just throw it in the dryer. Anyway, so with that being said, let's just chat about like the knitting community and social media and what that looks like. And oh god, I just like burped and needed to sneeze at the same time. Oh god, that was horrible. Anyway, so with that, let's chat about the knitting community and social media. So I thought I'd start by talking about my relationship with social media and knitting, because it's definitely different than like any other relationship I've had with social media before. I feel like I interact a lot differently on kind of like my knitting account than I do on my personal account, or than I had ever done on like any other social media account I've had in the past. So I mean, primarily for me, the big like social medias I spend time on now are Instagram for knitting, really, YouTube obviously, and I go on TikTok a lot, even though I don't really post on there anymore. And I actually started posting my knitting content for the first time on my TikTok because I was posting there more regularly. I didn't necessarily know if I wanted to make an Instagram and then like post about it on my personal page and ask like everyone I know I went to high school and college with to follow me on my personal page, and then it like not be something that I stick through. I just didn't want to do that. And then even though there's no like shame in doing that, like who cares? But before I set up an Instagram, I like wanted to make sure I would use it. And it turns out that I much prefer using Instagram to kind of capture and document my knitting and connect with other knitters as opposed to TikTok. I think that's for a few reasons. I think the first reason is that, and something that I'll probably come back to in this video, is that TikTok, of course, it really pushes out short form content, and the algorithm especially rewards those who can post really often. And I kind of felt that when I was trying to make TikToks about my knitting, I was thinking more about the TikToks I would post and like thinking about filming little clips of me actually knitting for videos that I could make, instead of like actually thinking about the knitting. And I'm glad I have some of it documented, because I am kind of proud of the videos I put out on there, but at the same time I didn't like how much mental space it took up. And then secondly, I did find it was harder to kind of like find community and convene with other knitters. I didn't start my TikTok as a knitting account, and so like especially with TikTok, if you don't kind of like locate a niche right away and kind of stick with it. It's kind of hard to gain traction and then find others like you. And I know now there's like a lot more people that have moved to TikTok, and I think that's great. But I think in general, if you want to like make friends and have more of a sense of community, it's easier on Instagram. That's what I found. And I feel like on TikTok, people are more like, oh, what's this pattern? Like, do you like, this is cool. But like, it's not like people that want to listen to me talk for 45 minutes, you know? So that kind of led me to Instagram. That led me to make my Instagram almost a year old. I made it last August, so it's almost been a year of posting like just knitting content and just interacting with like folks on knitting Instagram, crocheting Instagram, what have you. And I've honestly really enjoyed the experience. It's really nice, especially as someone who doesn't have a lot of knitting friends in real life. And it's just been like a great way to get feedback and get advice and just like talk about something that I like with people that like the same thing. Basically, very rudimentary, right? That's what I think a lot of us are drawn to. And that's what I like really enjoy about social media, is being able to meet other folks with shared interests, and connect about something that is a huge part of my life now. And with that, I really try to maintain an attitude of like, I only want to do something if I want to and it will make me happy. And I really try to keep to that with postings through social media as well. I don't have like an upload schedule on YouTube because I just don't feel like it's really sustainable for me to have one. And as soon as I think I'm like forcing myself to create content, I might be sacrificing it. And I kind of just wanted to give myself the opportunity to let my content and my video making skills grow organically and kind of find my own style and own voice that way. And that too with Instagram. Like for all of these apps, of course, the algorithm's going to favor you if you're very consistent about what you're posting. But I know that, and sometimes I try to take as many pictures as I can, but at the end of the day, if I like sit down to knit and I'm like, oh, I should take a picture. If the idea of like stopping knitting and like setting up a flat lay or taking a picture of my bookcase or like putting a garment on to take a progress picture like seems like too much effort and not as fun as knitting, and then I'm not going to do it, because at the end of the day, our free time is very limited, and it's just good to spend it in a way that makes you happy. That's like my number one life philosophy. Like nothing that you do for fun should stress you out in a bad way. Like maybe a little bit, but like nothing that like is keeping you up at night or like anything like that. So that is my like personal view on social media. That's my why. That's why I started posting my knitting on social media, and I'm so happy that I did. And I'm so happy that I found another creative outlet on YouTube. I've really enjoyed long form video making for knitting as opposed to short form video making. And on that note, I feel like that brings me right where we want to be when talking about Instagram and its newest updates and its really big emphasis on short form content in the form of reels. I've seen a lot of people posting, especially like in the past 2 days, like it's a graphic that's like make Instagram again. Like a lot of people expressing frustrations that they don't want to see reels on their page, and if people do want to see reels, people probably don't want to see reels from people they don't follow. Instagram is different than TikTok, where on TikTok they like curate things for you to see. And Instagram, what I like about it is I can curate exactly what I want to see on my feed. That's why I have a separate knitting Instagram account, because I was following knitting accounts on my personal and I wanted to post about knitting, but I was like, these people don't care. Like, these people I went to high school with don't care that what I'm knitting. And I mean, maybe some do, but like most don't. And I just wanted a way to like interact with people and like just like see that kind of content on my feed. And I think a lot of folks go on Instagram because like there's a sense that you've curated your following, and that's not really the case with TikTok. And that's what makes it so addictive and fun, is you can just swipe through seeing in waiting in anticipation to see what TikTok has showed you and what they think that you want to see. And like for every like few dumb TikToks you see one that's like really funny, or like one that you really like. And bringing it back to this like long form versus short form content, I think where it's really hard for people that engage in like making their own clothes, or in more like slow, I'm not gonna call it like slow living, but like slow fashion, in the sense that you're making your own clothes. It's good like in the forms of knitting, sewing, or crochet. Some of those are slower than others, but at the end of the day, like it's hard to keep up with the pace that these apps kind of like encourage you and reward you for posting in. And I feel like there's only so many videos I can watch of someone's like view of their hands and them working on their project. And I've posted those videos before because I know that I always see them on my feed. So it's like, does Instagram want to see this? And it's interesting because I get the overwhelming sense that like most people either are kind of indifferent or like don't care to see that content on their feed. And this is, again, I'm not trying to like single anyone out at all, but it's just like interesting trying to make such a long form hobby condense into short form content. And I mean, I think a lot of reasons why there's so many knitting podcasts now and such long form knitting content on Instagram, or there's so much long form knitting content on YouTube, is that knitters and crocheters and people that make things like to plop on the couch, grab a project, and just like hear someone talk about their hobby for a little bit, their shared hobby, and get some rows in. Or you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like very antithetical to the way that like social media and content consumption is going, because you can't necessarily speed up your knitting that fast. Like, economies of scale, you probably only have 2 hands and 1 body. So like, yeah, you can learn continental and you can knit on really chunky yarn, but at the end of the day, like, there's only so much you can do, especially if posting on Instagram isn't your job, which I'm not disparaging anyone that does that. For me, I know it's like I have to balance work and pleasure too. So I think that it's hard and kind of a shame that people feel like they have to post content they might not necessarily feel super inspired by. I think, oh, my ice maker's singing the sound of its people. 1 second. This is really, really sparkly. Okay, where was I? It sucks that people feel like pressured to post reels just so they can like make sure people are seeing their content. And I'm getting that from what people are actually saying. I know some people like enjoy making reels, and no shade to them at all. But I think like these 2 separate apps serve their separate purposes, and we should just let them do that. Because now, and someone commented this when I asked for kind of input on Instagram, is that I think that a lot of reels, and this is outside knitting, this is just like reels in general, really like lack the originality and authenticity that TikToks do. And the thing with TikTok is that like the algorithm works so quickly, as I've been saying, and that also kind of lends to like a lot of like creativity or like remixing ideas, which I think can be fun. But I think by the time they make it over to reels, they're kind of stale. And that's might be a hot opinion, but I think, they're kind of stale. And also, what I look through when I just go through my Reels feed now on Instagram, because I'll go through bouts where I delete TikTok off my phone because I spend up too much time, and then I try to like watch Reels to have it itch the same scratch, and it absolutely does not, because the content is just like me snapping my finger and a ball of yarn turns into a sweater, or like half the content I see on Reels is people trying to hack the algorithm, and it's like, here's how to make your reel go viral, use this sound and share 4 pictures. And I just think that by the time that this short form content has made it on to Instagram, it's just lost a lot of creativity, which I think is a shame, because there's so many creative people in the field, and I feel like it's not allowing people to like creatively showcase what they do, or just like post a picture, because for a lot of people the creative part is not the Instagram picture, it's like the item itself that they've stitched together by hand, you know? I don't know, I just have like, it's kind of a bummer, and I hoped I can just like continue to see people's photos. And not that I dislike Reels, there's a feeling as well that people are making Reels because they have to. And again, this is something I think that definitely extends beyond the knitting community, but whenever people feel forced to do something, I don't necessarily think you're creating like the best environment for like the optimal creative output. And like there's like sounds on TikTok that's like, everything is content, everything is, or yeah, on Reels, I've never heard the sound on TikTok, but it's like, everything is content, everything is content, and it's like people just showing like random videos. And I'm here to tell you, everything does not have to be content. Like, we don't have to put photos in front of everything that we don't have to put a camera in front of everything that we're doing, you know? And that part also, that just like saying in a mentality in itself kind of just goes against how I approach things, and it kind of grinds my gears. Because like, no, we don't have to make everything consumable for someone else. People have done it for years. Like, people have knit for years without doing that. And like, I've noticed, I feel like if you really dedicate your time to creating content out of the craft that you do, you could end up like splitting your time equally between just doing social media and the craft itself. And that like is a huge spectrum depending on if you make money from social media, if it's like your livelihood, you know, if that's different, like that's a different scenario that I'm not really kind of addressing because I don't have the context for that. But also like if people really are passionate about photography and videography, then like, yeah, like I think that'll show through their content itself, you know? Anyway, I just feel sometimes meh, but at the end of the day, something I just try to remind myself is that this is all for fun. And, you know, these companies are just trying to get you to stay on their apps as long as possible and engage with things as long as possible so they can show you ads. Like, I haven't even addressed that Instagram is basically a shopping platform. A shopping platform now. I remember I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw someone had a knit dress, and then something on, like, a dress they make themselves. Something on Instagram, like the shop feature came up, and it was like, here are products like that if you want to buy something like this. And I was like, I don't want to buy something like this. I want to make something like this. But that doesn't really like help make you money now, does it, Instagram? Unless you're really selling me yarn. Has anyone bought yarn off Instagram? I would like to know. Anyway, I do really have a love-hate relationship with it. And I'm trying to think what other folks were saying on Instagram. I think folks were really just like annoyed that people they don't follow come up on their feed, and I definitely think that's annoying for Instagram because that hasn't always been like a function of like your Instagram following feed. I don't know. I feel like they just like they've just like gotten so far away from a usable app. But at the end of the day, it's still my favorite place to meet with folks. And also YouTube. I really like YouTube, but like I kind of feel like Instagram's home base, you know? And YouTube's kind of like where I come and get to like expand on things and you know, like be more like myself and kind of talk openly. Not that I'm like censoring myself, but you know what I mean. It's a different experience watching someone for a while talk about things than it is to like just scroll through their Instagram feed. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts that I've been thinking lately. I think I'll definitely, you know, continue to use social media and just showcase my knitting because it's fun and I enjoy it, and I've grown to really like it. And I'll just say there's no like one right way to do this, and like everyone should do what makes them happy and make content that makes them happy. And like engagement on your stuff doesn't matter. Like I'm not some big hot shot content creator, you know? I'm just doing what I like, and some people have enjoyed that, and that's amazing, you know? Yeah. I think one of the other things with social media is that and I've talked about this too a lot on this channel, is like deciphering what you like versus like what the pattern of the month is, you know? And this is, again, no hate, because I think very like popular patterns myself, but there is an element of like, have I just seen this sweater 1,000 times, or do I actually like it? And like getting carried away with the overexposure of certain garments on your feed, being like, do I want to make this? Like, does this have a place in my wardrobe? Yeah, and I think one thing that can help us like combat the ever looming like drive and desire, like the ever looming demand for the algorithm, is to remember that, like, I mean, at least for me, one thing that I do to help kind of quell the sounds of like the ever demanding algorithm is to remind myself that like at the end of the day, I'm making items for me. And although some things might be really trendy or cute, like I shouldn't necessarily just make them because I think it'd be a good video or I think it'd be a good picture. And it would get traction, you know? Like, I just don't think that would fulfill me. And I think that for me, reminding myself that everything that I make is an intentional choice, and reminding myself to keep it that way is really helpful, because I can feel a lot happier about the finished product I put out. Both like I'm starting to tongue tie. Both the finished object and both the social media content that coincides with it, you know? So, whew. So my key takeaways kind of for me are that it's really helpful when I remind myself why I'm using social media, and it helps me kind of stay grounded with my purpose, which is like convening with others and having and taking part of a knitting community. And it is really hard to compress long form content or long form hobby into short form content, so don't stress too much about it, and it might not necessarily, just don't stress too much about it, because at the end of the day, what is really important, next point, is making things intentionally and keeping that intention to keep me engaged in the craft, to keep me engaged online, to be authentic to myself and my craft. So with that, thanks for tuning in to this knit and chat. I'm so glad you joined me. Just, chill out, knit, chat about social media. And the next thing that I post will be a podcast episode. Hopefully I'll have this finished to show you all and kind of update you on my summer knitting. And again, thanks for stopping by. I hope to see y'all soon. Bye.